What if I tell you that the formula on closing a job interview is the same formula that most salespeople should be using in order to make sales? I'm just going to park telesales for today because I want to focus on today's topic, which is face to face selling. Some like it discreet, but some like it face to face. And today I want to shout out to all the face to face salespeople. This topic is especially for you. So let's get into it. I've got 12 tips for you, and I hope you're ready for this long video because it will be really worth it. So, tip number one, dress for success. Very important to dress appropriately. You need to be as neat as possible. If you're a girl, your makeup not overdone. If you're a guy, please clean shave if possible, or if you have some mustache or whatever facial hair, keep it tidy. It's very basic, but as a sales manager myself, or as a sales lead as myself, I have interviewed hundreds of salespeople or applicants, and I can tell you that many of them have missed out this very fundamental tip. You need to dress for success. Face to face, they will see you and they will smell you. So you got to smell good as well. The difference between face to face and telesales is physical. They can see you, they can smell you. So make sure that you dress for success and you're there to give a good impression. Number two, come super prepared. Okay, what do you mean by come super prepared? Naturally, you prepared your resume. Nowadays, it's all online. Nowadays, your employer can read your profile before you get invited for an interview. Probably they saw your profile on LinkedIn. So, what I mean by you come prepared is you fully understand what you had indicated in your resume. And what I mean by come super prepared is you really understand the ins and outs of what you have indicated in terms of job description, if there will be any technical question, or if there was any information on your resume that you're not really fully able to explain or communicate or express. My suggestion, you do a rehearsal before you go for interview. Create a sample questionnaire. Have your partner or whoever you're with to go through it with you, because it's important that you rehearse for a big moment like that. A lot of job applications or job interviews are often taken as, okay, I'm just gonna send my resume, I'm gonna go for interview, and wish me luck. But because a lot of people don't really look at the job as a job interview as also a sales presentation. You are also selling yourself when you're going for a job interview. So, number two, come prepared, super prepared. It's kind of like your product knowledge is your resume. Really understand what's in there. Really be prepared for technical questions or any tricky questions that reflects on your resume. All right, now, next one, build rapport. Now, I do understand that job interview can be nerve-wracking, but that's normal. It's actually a good sign because that means this is something you take seriously. And when you take something seriously, you do make an effort to really give the best performance of your life. Well, it is a performance of your life, so you got to do it good. Now, what I mean by build rapport is don't be shy to also break the ice, small talk. So, here's a simple role play. You walk in, the interviewee and you both have never met before. So ideally, you introduce yourself, you give each other firm handshake, and there is crickets around the room. So in order to break that ice, it can also come, or it should also come from you as an interviewee. So your little things, small talk like, how are you? Good, good, yes, good today. It's a beautiful weather, or something like, I'm good, thanks. Thankfully it's a school, the kids are back to school, the school holiday is over, things like that. Because you also want to break the ice with the person who's going to interview you and who's going to select you. So don't just arrive at the interview and sit there and just be so stiff and just wait for your interviewee to ask you questions. Again, ask or do small talks only. Don't have a full-blown Q&A or too comfortable opening conversations with your interviewee, because you also don't want him or her to be turned off. So my advice, build rapport by starting off small talk like what I've said just now, and that would also make you feel a little bit more relaxed before you get on with the interview. Now, another thing that I want to say as well is when you build rapport, you create a comfortable atmosphere for yourself and for your interviewee. I have been to so many interviews myself, and it helps me a lot to really warm up with the interviewee when I make myself comfortable and I do build rapport at the very, very, very first meeting. And try that. It really helps, and it would really create a cozy and really comfortable atmosphere for you. You need the comfortable atmosphere for everything, for the best to come out of you. I've also experienced interviewing a super nervous candidate, and because she was so nervous, I'm I'm looking at the resume and I'm thinking she has a good resume, but her personality, she's so opposite of what is written on this paper. And I don't think that it's because she's not a good candidate, but because the building rapport part, the breaking ice part, was not really initiated. So really pay attention on that very basic but very practical tip for you. Now, number 3, use body language. Because it's a face-to-face selling, guys. Very important as well to express your body language. What types of body language? Number 1, eye contact. Look into the eye when you're speaking to the interviewee, or in this case, to the person that you're selling the product to. Now, when you actually look into the eye, you also send positive body language. Because if you're face to face selling, the most awkward thing is you're selling and then you're looking down. How many of you experienced that? Like you are the buyer and then the salesperson is not looking at you, or looking away, or just too nervous to even have eye contact. In your mind as a salesperson, you might think, oh, I'm just so nervous. But in the mind of the buyer, they would think you're ingenuine, or you're not really serious about the meeting. And that's easily the way for you to lose the connection. And when you lose the connection with your client, you can easily lose the sale. Now, use open gesture. What do you mean by use open gesture? This is still within the umbrella of the body language that you use when you're face-to-face selling. And I'm sorry, at the very beginning of this video, I kind of refer also to interview, face-to-face interview and face-to-face selling, because it's really very, very similar. The process is so similar. You're trying to get to the same goal, which is to close a sale and to close the job. So pardon me if I'm referring to two things as an example time to time, But although the topic is face-to-face selling, it is still linked with face-to-face interview. Now, listen actively. That's another tip I want to give you. So when you're actually on a face-to-face, or when you're face-to-face selling, a lot of times we get caught up with just talking and talking the benefits, presenting the benefits, throwing the benefits, and all this information. But we also sometimes can fall into a trap where we no longer give the client an opportunity to be heard. So listen actively, but because it's face to face, you use body language and facial expression. So, like nodding, like if your client is explaining herself to you or sharing her experience, whatever it's her turn to speak, you obviously want to do this. You nod, and obviously you show a bit of smile, you show a bit of acknowledgement from your body language to your very mild facial expression. And again, this is also a very effective tip when you're doing face-to-face selling, because I've said on my previous video that, or many times in my videos, that people buy because they like you. And when you're doing face-to-face selling, it is the same thing. They will not buy from you if you look grumpy, or if you look so flat, or if you look so unenthusiastic. So make sure that your body language, your nodding, your mild facial expression, and don't overdo it. You don't need to like totally look like animated during the interview. That's not needed, right? But you're a human being. You need to be as natural. You need to show some expression and connection with the buyer or with your customer. Next tip, tailor your pitch. Now, this is applicable also on telemarketing, guys. But at the same time, if you're doing face-to-face selling, I assume you have done your homework, you've prepared who you're seeing, what type of client you're seeing, what product are you specifically selling to him in terms of what benefits actually suitable for him. So tailoring your pitch is very important. Now, this is very important part of this video. Please hear me out. When you listen to videos or you watch videos, there's hundreds of videos on sales techniques on YouTube. So many, too many. But one thing you need to remember is those techniques may be applicable to a certain client, to a certain country, to a certain culture. But you're watching me from wherever country you're from. You need to tailor your pitch to where you're from and to who are you selling to. I've always been training in Asia, okay, in Asia region. Asian customers, Asian clients, if you're to tell me now that you want to train them the hardcore westernized style that you see on YouTube, I can promise you it doesn't work. Because Asian clients, Asian customers are different. And it's reverse. If you were to tell me that buyers in the Philippines, the way you persuade them, or the way they get persuaded, the way they value or choose who they want to buy from, it will not be the same as if I would say in Australia. There's a big element of cultural thing, guys. There's a big cultural element, There's a big cultural element in tailoring your pitch. So as much as I would say, okay, that video is phenomenal, like really hardcore, really, I listen to it and I'm so motivated, like, wow, that is so rara. But on actuality, as soon as I turn off that video, I know to myself that that would not work out if I'm calling my clients in Singapore, because it just doesn't work. It's just a cultural thing. So this tip is extremely important. Tailor your pitch where you are, who you're calling, what type of culture you're in, and then you can decide how you can tailor the approach. That's why my training method is very universal, is very practical, because I don't want to left or to make anyone feel left out and say, oh well, that doesn't apply where I'm from, or that's not how it works, because everything that I'm teaching you is based on basic human principle. But if you want to go sophisticated with some super advanced, super hardcore selling, I can promise you that sounds good, but when the actuality of will you do it yourself, where you're doing your business from, I can promise you, you will not try or use those methods for a very obvious reason. You will not do something you're not comfortable with. You gotta pick a training method or a sales technique that, number one, you are comfortable to use. Sounds good, but it's not for me. I can't get on the phone and talk like that, or I can't watch that video and be so inspired, and I cannot duplicate that method when I'm facing Mr. Lim, because you need to know where you're calling, you need to know where you're selling, and then you need to tailor according to your clientele and where you're from and the culture. Very important tip, very, very important tip. Now, next one, moving on, guys. Handle objections gracefully. Now, telemarketing or telesales, I've done few videos about handling objection. It's part of it. It's part of the game. Now, when you're face to face, there is also, or you will also encounter objections. Now, here's the tricky one. When you're face to face and your client throw you an objection, your facial expression, definitely it will reflect. Like if you look suddenly annoyed, you look suddenly irritated, or you're challenged, or you're shocked, or it made you even more nervous. So my advice to that is really be prepared with all the objections that's going to be given to you during your face-to-face selling, and handle it gracefully. Respond calmly. And at the same time, stay positive and you sound positive. So I'll give you a role play. So for example, this is a face-to-face selling. And the clients say, oh, because the client, they can do whatever they want. They have no script, right? They can act however they want, because they are the ones who's gonna buy. I'm just saying, not disrespectfully, okay? But like, okay, they can ask questions or throw objections in their own way. So for example, all right, the role play here is if your clients say, I don't really like your hotel. I don't really like your hotel. It's not beautiful, or it's in a bad location, or whatever. It's a negative comment. It's an objection. He doesn't like your hotel. He doesn't like your place. So what can happen there? Your face might go like that, right? So what you do is to make sure that you know objections are coming, you already prepare yourself. You're not going to have this face on objection. Oh, you don't like my hotel? No, of course not. But manage your reaction and just be calm. Just say, oh, Mrs. Lim, I'm so sorry. I wish that you have a better experience. I'm happy to take you on tour. I'll bring you for a hotel tour just to see the other side of the hotel. Maybe The last time you visited, we have not done the renovation, or maybe the last time you came by, the hotel was not in a good shape, but I'm really happy to bring you for a hotel tour just to give you a different impression of the hotel. Like that. So if you observe my face, my tone, it's exactly how you should be when you're handling objection face to face. Yeah? So, next one, guys. Ask open ended questions. Again, face to face selling, you inquire what you want to do. Okay, what it means by ask open ended questions is you want to encourage prospect to share more of his needs, interests, and pain points. So again, it's similar to when you're doing telesales because you obviously, you do qualifying, but on face to face, you want to ask open-ended question because you are face to face and you want to get as many yes, but also you also want to get some no's, provided the no's would not reflect poorly to your presentation or to your product. So one example is one role play for that would be, so Mrs. Lim, have you actually dined in one of our restaurants? For example, Mrs. Lim would say no. Okay, it's an open-ended question. The answer is no. It may be a no, but that is your opportunity to position that presentation and say, all right, that's not a problem. This is actually a great opportunity for you to first time experience a restaurant using your dining benefits where you will enjoy your 50% off the total food bill that you can use any day of the year except only on public holidays. And I guarantee you're going to enjoy the type of cuisine and the type of options you have there. So that is a classic. Again, this is a face-to-face selling, guys, okay? Still very, very similar to telemarketing, or sorry, telesales. So that is a very classic situation where you want to ask open-ended question because you want to keep the communication, you want to keep the conversation back and forth. It's like when you're with a group of friends or group of people that you just met. Okay, let's not say group of friends. Say you go for a social event and you just met people in the event, and you happen to be sitting in the same room or in the same table. And that's what people do when you're kind of mingling and breaking the ice and kind of making sure that the conversation is flowing and you feel relaxed and everything is going good. You ask open-ended questions. So face-to-face selling is really not all about selling the product. This part, please listen. Face-to-face selling is not only selling the product, it's also selling the moment. How do you make the client feel the whole 15 minutes or 20 minutes that you're together? Because that would be a buying factor, and secondary, the product. When you're face to face selling, you can really set the stage. You can create a mood. You can have a little bit of giggle, a little bit of, you know, small talk in between, a lot of eye contacts, a lot of body language, connecting each other. And in the end, the client will also buy because of how you made him feel or her feel the entire time you're sitting on that table together. Now, next one, be honest and authentic. Yes, this sounds very cliche. This could refer to the benefits and the product that you're explaining to your client, but at the same time, a lot of times there are moments when, because the salesperson is so nervous, is so pressured to close the sale, there is this tendency to kind of not be very clear with the presentation in terms of the benefits, in terms of the product. So always be honest and authentic because it will build trust. And what do I mean by it will build trust? Assuming you did not get the sale at that moment. Because let's face it, not all sales presentations, like you don't just close a sale, not all the time that you get the sale on the spot. A lot of times, maybe I would say 60%, 70% are follow-ups. And I base it on my experience, whether it's telesales or face-to-face selling. 30% of that would be okay, I'll give you the sale on the spot. The rest are more on first meeting, then second meeting, they sign up. Or first meeting, and then the third meeting, they sign up. So that's why it's important to be authentic and honest, because if it becomes a follow-up sales call or face-to-face selling, and the client identify that there's something wrong or there's some form of discrepancy on your presentation, then that would break the trust. And that's very hard to fix, as we all know. So, again, it sounds very basic, it sounds so simple, but in my experience in sales, a lot of times the easy options or the basic tips are often neglected. So, don't do that. All right, next one, guys. Create sense of urgency. If you've watched my video about creating urgency, I'm sure you can follow me on this trail. If you have not, that's okay. Finish this video and go to my playlist and you will see the video that I've created for training you on creating urgency for telesales. This one is face-to-face selling. Yeah? So let's talk about this. What is my tip on creating sales urgency or creating sense of urgency? First, you need to do it appropriately. A lot of salespeople feel that the way to create urgency is to be pushy, is to give deadline, is to say, for example, today is the last day for this promotion. How many of us experience that? Today is the last day for that promotion. How does that make me feel? I feel really annoyed because it's like, so now not only that I have other things to worry about in my life, but at the same time, I have to worry about the deadline you're giving me today. So don't use that as an excuse for you to create urgency, because that's wrong. That's not gonna work out. So how do you create sense of urgency face to face? Again, because it's face to face, guys, they can see your eagerness. You have to make sure that your eagerness is controlled because they can see you. If you're like super eager to get the sale, or you're putting so much pressure on her and say, no, this is today is really the last day, like that. Okay, so now what is the effective way to create urgency if I'm doing face to face? Number one, make sure that you present the value that he urgently needs, the discount he urgently needs, the benefits he urgently needs. That's creating urgency, and particularly if you're doing face-to-face selling. Just go back to the profiling information or the qualifying information you gathered, and then use that as your opportunity to present the urgency for her to use this benefit, the urgency for her to facilitate this card for his upcoming birthday or anniversary or celebration, and so on and so forth. So use his needs to create the urgency to buy. Because face-to-face is a little bit tricky, guys. It's a little bit obvious than on the phone. Because on the phone, we can create urgency, and our face is so eager. We are even like doing this on the phone sometimes. Like, I've experienced that. Whenever I'm at the part of getting the credit card payment or the payment details, I'm like this on the phone. But face to face, you cannot do that. So you have to make sure you stay composed and make sure that you're focusing on what are the needs you urgently have to use the membership, to sign up for the program. Okay? Now, next one, guys. Two more to go. Practice active closing. So there is a closing. There's the first attempt to close, the second close, the third close. Ideally, this is applicable on telemarketing. If you're doing face-to-face selling, you can't do the traditional telesales closing approach wherein you don't say, oh, this is my first close, the second close. It doesn't work like that on face-to-face. So how do you do that? You do practice active closing. If you remember the formula I gave you in one of my training videos, the 4 W's and the 1 H. Where, when, what, who, and then how. Let that sink in a little bit. These are active closing. So you basically, when you're doing face-to-face closing, guys, you pretty much close the sale at the right time because the body language, you can see the body language of your client already, or the client will initiate, okay, so what do I need to do? Or, okay, how do I sign up? Or if that's not the case, if the client has no more clarifications or questions, then you can already proceed to active closing. So where should we send or mail out your full package, Mr. Lim? It will just take 7 to 10 working days. Where do I send it? To your business or to your home address? So that's an active closing. So you're just constantly asking either the where, the when, the what, the who, and the how. Okay, last tip. Follow up. Okay, so when you're doing follow-up, right, arrange a follow-up call or a follow-up meeting, you should be the one to initiate on this. Why? Because you are the salesperson, and secondly, because it's face-to-face. You want to make sure that the client is connected with you, whether you close the sale or not. When you arrange a follow-up meeting, you should initiate on the day, the timing, and it's still part of closing if you ask me, but it's more like you are initiating the next meeting. Or you can also use that when the client, for example, have already signed up, right? For example, he signed up, you got the sale. You can also do a follow-up meeting, the post-sale meeting, just in case you want to make sure that the client will not have any room to change his or her mind after the transaction. Because I've experienced this many times when the client would say yes, and then out of impulsive buying, and then the next day I'll get a call and say, oh, Majoy, I've changed my mind. Can you cancel the transaction? So when you arrange a follow-up call or follow-up communication, just to check if you received the package, just to check if everything is okay, somehow it eliminates the possibility of your client on changing his or her mind. Okay? So again, these tips I've given you are applicable on face-to-face selling, and give it a try, because only until you try these tips that you would know if this is going to work out for you. And if you have any questions, please be active on the comment section. And I will see you on the next training session. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. It will help the channel to grow, and if it grows, I will have more content and motivation to create, I have more motivation to create more contents for all of you. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for training with me today. Take care and have a good week. Bye.